Hello, my name is Chad Wilhelm, and I'm the new director over school safety and security. Well, the reason I came to Wills Point ISD was I really love the educational side of law enforcement. I have a good friend of mine that has some strong ties up here in Wills Point and knew of the position that was created for the director over safe schools and school safety and security, and called me and thought that I would be a good fit. I made a few calls locally where I was at in Brownsboro, Chandler area about Wills Point, and everybody had great positive things to say about Wills Point. Interviewed with Dr. Kalos and Mr. Russell, and really had a great feeling about both of those men and the leadership that they were providing for our school district, and knew at that point this was the right place for me. I've had a history in law enforcement in almost every aspect of law enforcement, from patrol to criminal investigation, from internal affairs, narcotics, canine, school resource officer, highway interdiction. I always loved the juvenile side of law enforcement and trying to help our youth. So the reason why I wanted a career in law enforcement goes back to my childhood. I was heavily involved with our youth group, and thought I had a pretty good upbringing, and I had a brother that I very much idolized. And in his later years in life, he got involved with drugs and kind of chose some bad paths in life. Initially, my mission, I guess if you could say that, was to catch drug dealers and people out there that would be selling things to my brother. School law enforcement was eventually where I was going to probably end my career, or end the latter portion of my career. So I got in law enforcement really to make a difference. But initially it was after the drug side of the house and making a difference in my community. Our goals for Wills Point ISD, specifically to our school district or to our campuses, and specifically to our safety and security department within the school district, is just to make it a secure and safe environment for our kiddos, our parents, and our staff. We do that through a couple different ways. One is we start to create an environment where everybody understands that we're all responsible for keeping kids safe. I'll begin to evaluate some of those things and implement some programs over the next year or two, and start to encourage everybody to be an active player. And they'll hear me say it takes a village to raise a child, or a village mentality, and that's what I'm talking about, is everybody doing their part to keep the kids safe. The other piece is I'll spend the first 6 months here at Wills Point evaluating our current systems, whether it's our access control or our cameras, or how kids come and go, what our pickup and drop off lines look like, how we address visitors on our campuses. But we'll begin to evaluate that and then make some recommendations on how we can tweak some of that stuff and grow it and make it a little easier for our parents, but also make it a safer environment for our kids and for our parents and for our staff. One of the positive things that I would say about Wills Point ISD is the proactive measures, well prior to me even arriving on scene, that the administration took to keep our schools safe. We've already began to upgrade our vestibules in our front offices around our schools. We've added access control in and around our schools, which means that we use a key card system to gain entry to a building. We've got a great visitor check-in system that we began to enhance. We've done a lot of pieces of the puzzle prior to hiring a director of our school safety, and we're headed down a direction that is ultimately going to be a better environment for our kids. We need to make sure that we maintain positive relationships in and around our schools, on our neighborhoods, or in our neighborhoods and in our county. It's important as a law enforcement officer to have a good rapport with our community. But one of the most positive ways that we can do that is just model our behavior. Some of the characteristics that I think make me a law enforcement officer that works well with young people is my ability to connect and build relationships. I was a young person at one point, and I remember law enforcement officers in my life taking the time to get to know me. And that was a real positive thing for me, that I had a police officer in a blue uniform that had lots to do that day and was probably chasing criminals right and left, but took the time to develop a relationship with me and get to know who I was. Some people want to know that there's adults in their life, whether it's law enforcement or firemen or parents, that we're invested in them. I've got quite a few years in law enforcement and understand the law enforcement side, but that doesn't necessarily make a good school-based police officer. School-based policing is about being a good counselor, being a good listener, but also holding people accountable, unfortunately, when we make some poor choices. As a law enforcement leader, I think it is important for all of us, whether you're a patrolman or a lieutenant or a captain or a chief of police, I think it's very important for us to be involved in our community, but also be a role model for our community. It's important for us to connect with members of our community. It's important for us to build those positive working relationships with everybody around us, whether that be attending UIL and sporting events at the school, or whether it's attending a church rally or a local business person's meeting. It's important for me as a leader inside of our school district to be a part of the community out here.